I wanted to talk about Marcus Harris. Oh, hello everyone. I want to talk about Marcus Harris being in the Australian Test team, and based on the report from today, that he's going to appear in the first Test against India in Adelaide. Now, I don't know that much about Marcus Harris. I really haven't heard a lot about him, and I follow Sheffield Shield cricket very avidly. He's not a name that I was hearing about. Until perhaps a week or two ago. Now, that in itself tells me it's not a good option. It's a hunch. Now, I've seen the figures. They said, well, this year he scored 250 in one innings, which that's a good achievement. Well done. Congratulations. Also note that there was a guy called Will Pukovsky who scored 243 in one match, and we're not talking about him. Now, Will Pukovsky, in comparison, I've also read that he's having an indefinite break for, I think it's mental health issues. Perhaps look, I don't want to get into that, but perhaps we should have been having Will Pukovsky if we could have. He's 20 and he's averaging 52. Marcus Harris is 27 and he's averaging 35. Now, averaging 35 is not test level. It doesn't matter which country you're in. That's not test level. So an overall average of 35 is below standard. Now, it's okay as a hunch. If you had an 18-year-old who was averaging 33, such as Jason Sangha, you could say, well, let's have a go at him. Let's say, good on you, Jason Sangha. We're going to put that hunch in there. We're going to say, you're 18, you're 19, you're 20. We'll see how you go. And there's an argument to do that. When you're doing that with a 27-year-old, you're saying, hey, you've done nothing. You're 27. We're just going to throw you in there. And it's setting them up to fail. And it's a bad idea. Now, we had recently Marnus Labuschagne had similar stats from last year. He was number 2 on last year's run scoring list. He was given a test debut. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't good. He scored, I think he averaged 20 with a bat, and he also took a few wickets, averaged about 28 with a ball. And he wasn't a regular bowler, but he took a few wickets. And there's an argument that he could have been given another test just to see. But also, he was put in there as a batsman, and he was working as a bowler. And that's never a good idea. But anyway, so Marcus Harris, now, the stats we've got, so total average of 35. This year, he's averaged 85 or 87, mainly based on that 250 that he got. Last year and the year before combined, he averaged 42. That might be including this year. I haven't checked what stats they're meaning as to what stats. You know how they always isolate stats. But I'm not completely convinced he's in good form, really. Not really. Now, there are players that are in good form right now. There's a fellow called Jake Lehmann, who's Darren Lehmann's son. He's in great form. There's also a fellow called Matthew Renshaw, who was our main opener just over a year ago. Now, we look at what happened last year. Last year, we had a guy who got 2 centuries in 2 matches called Cameron Bancroft. Now, we know what happened with him. He was put in there without form, put in there based on 2 matches. And he then went to the test team and did badly. And he did badly against England. He did badly against South Africa. Now, he wasn't averaging 2, in which case it would have been dumped, but he was averaging 26, 28 test levels. And it's not test standard. It's letting the side down. And in response, he did that professional foul, and he tampered with the ball. So I'm not saying that anybody that's put in with an average of 35 is going to fail and then do a professional foul with a tamper with the ball that ruins Australian cricket. And I'm not expecting Marcus Harris to do that. I don't think I expected Cameron Bancroft to do that either. It's not. If I can put it this way, it's not good for us to be making these hunches. Hunches come every so often, and we need them, but batting and bowling, and occasionally wicket keeping as well. Tim Paine was definitely a hunch. Massive hunch from last year. But we can't just keep having hunch after hunch after hunch. Some hunches work. It's not that work. We call them brilliant selectors when they put somebody in that nobody else would have put in, and they work out. I think we can say Aaron Finch has so far worked as a hunch. We can say that when Peter Handscomb was put in as a hunch, it worked. We can say that when Tim Payne was put in as a hunch last year, that worked. But we can also say that hunches more often than not fail. So when you have a consistent, someone that's put in deservedly is more likely to work than someone that's put in as a hunch. That's not to say that people that deserve it end up always working. Some of them don't. I've forgotten the name of that spinner, but there was a spin bowler who was wonderful domestically, and then had a test match, or maybe I think he might have had two. No, he only had one, and he was awful. It was absolutely awful. And we've had fast bowlers; they were awful. And some of them we give a few tests to. Some of them we just give one, and it's stuffed up. That's it. That's gone. No, like Steve O'Keefe is probably the most deserving spin bowler in Australia, and he's hardly had any chances at test level. He's got a much better test record, first class record than Nathan Lyon. Much, 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 much better. And I mean, he's had a few successes at test level, but he generally hasn't really taken that. And there's other players that it's the other way around. Now, look, I don't know for Marcus Harris. I don't know if he's going to work or not. But I know that he probably won't. I know that for every one that works, there's five that don't. When you're using hunches like this is a hunch. It's averaging 35. That's not up there. You know, we've got Matthew Wade. He's averaging 40. I mean, he's a wicket keeper as well, and he's quite a good wicket keeper, in my opinion at least. And he's averaging 40 in first class cricket, so he's not included. Got Glenn Maxwell, of course. He's averaging around 40. And so why are we dropping down to 35s? Is there a particular reason that we need to drop to 35? For someone that's 27, that's had a small amount of form, that hasn't even really impressed anyone except for some statistical manipulation, and we're putting him in. So what does this say about our chances for India? I mean, we could argue that we're not taking it seriously. You could argue you're building for the future. Why are you building for the future in a test series that's a lot about bragging on? We've already shot ourselves in the foot by having Steve Smith and David Warner banned completely unfairly, and I've gone over that in the previous video. But why are we putting Marcus Harris in? Why are we taking it? If Peter Handscomb plays and we put Khawaja and Finch at the top, that's not a risk. Harris is a risk. And I mean, Adelaide is going to be a tough test for us. The conditions are very India-like. India are going to love it as they loved it last time they played in Adelaide. They came very close to winning that time. We won by 58 runs. Now, without Smith and Warner, we're probably going to lose or draw. So we're not expecting to win. Okay? If you put Harris in there, it's going to make it that much easier for India to win. Now, look, most tests at Adelaide end in a draw. They're very high scoring. We still might be able to draw it, even with him. But I think we've got to put our best team forward, and that's not our best team. I think if we're putting in someone based on one score and a slightly above average last 2 years, it's not an outstanding score. Averaging 42 is not amazing for 2 seasons in a row. And I mean, Glenn Maxwell last year scored 233 and nobody cared. So why are we caring about 250? At least we know what Maxwell's like. We know that he can do well in international level. We don't know that about this Harris fellow. It's a risk. It's an unnecessary risk. As I think, when Warner comes back, who's going to be opening? Finch, most likely. We think that Harris is going to do better than Finch. I don't think that's a possibility. If we had Renshaw there, we say, well, there's Renshaw's a chance of doing better than Finch. Renshaw's got that pedigree. He's done well at test level. And, you know, he's very young as well. So it would have been a fight between Finch and Renshaw for that partner for Warner once Warner comes back. And I'm assuming that Warner will go back into the test team. I think we're playing a lot of politics if we don't. I think it's really unfair for someone that did nothing wrong. We banned for a year and then he's played the party line, he's towed the party line, he's done everything Cricket Australia wanted him to do. And if they then don't put him back in, there's something wrong there. I'm expecting him to come back, and you'll be hearing a lot more from me if he doesn't. Yeah, I'll be pretty angry. Yeah. So, what's the point of Harris? Is the question there? Is there any possibility that he will be the number one opener out of the ones that are not Warner? Is there any chance that he will be that good? And the simple answer is no. There's not that chance. He's got Cameron Bancroft last year. Cameron Bancroft was never a chance to be any good at all. And we all talked about, he's got potential. He doesn't. It was such a huge hunch, and he didn't perform. And to continue to give him that many chances was really bad for our cricket. And I mean, that professional foul, it's not the way we've done our cricket previously. I know some other countries do encourage professional fouls. We've never done it in Australia, not at the international level, not that I'm aware of. And I think we can say quite clearly it was because, the selectors that picked him in the first place, based on nothing, have a lot to blame for that. And I think if we pick Marcus Harris in similar unworthy conditions, I think if something happened as a result of that, and again, there's no way he's going to tamper the ball, but if something bad happened, whatever it might have been, we have ourselves fine. The selectors have themselves fine. I'm not blaming myself. I've said don't pick him. I've given a list of people that we should pick. He's not on that list. So, if you say, pick someone on form, if that's good form, it doesn't really. There was Alex Doolan's had good form too, but he's got an overall really bad record. And he didn't do particularly well at Test level. He was okay. He wasn't good. And, while we're picking him, if we picked someone on form, we could pick George Bailey. He's too old, apparently. We picked Adam Voges when he was really old and he did really well. Picked Chris Rogers when he was old and he did well. It's not a good option. It's not a good option. I'd be much happier if we weren't going to go with Matt Renshaw. I would have been happier for us to have picked Jake Lehmann. And I think that was probably the best option of the others, because Jake Lehmann has an overall really good record. I think his average is 45 first class level, I believe, around that number. And he's also been really good for 3 or 4 years in a row. He's been a good leader, and he showed that he has the temperament for Test level. Harris doesn't. And I've pushed. I think Glenn Maxwell should have been considered. I understand why he isn't at the moment, but I also feel that they're stuffing him around a real lot, and not really very fairly. Unfortunately, this happens sometimes, but yeah. So I'm just, it's like we're saying to India, hey, we want you to win. We want you to support us in some way, so we're going to let you win. And little Indian fans are saying, yeah, thanks for that. Hey, but you're not giving it to us. We're a good team. And they're saying that we're making excuses beforehand. Now, I'm not making excuses. If India win, good on them. I think that there are some wins that are bigger than others. And I think if you're winning against a top team away from home with their best players, with everything being very legitimate, that's when you're really proud. And I don't think India's going to get that. They're going to be playing against a team without their best players, with some absolute hunches and missing players for political reasons. that any win is going to feel less than it should. And I think that's not just bad for Australian cricket, that's bad for India as well. I mean, India have won so rarely in Australia. They've won 2 tests out of their last 20. That sounds right. Might be two wins, 18 losses, and 7 draws. Something, it's around those figures. And for them to win anything, even in Adelaide, even with their conditions that are almost identical to India's, even with our top 2 players missing, even with us picking this absurd choice in Marcus Harris, even with that double full trap, and good on them, Australia's still a chance to win Adelaide. I think more realistically, Australia should go for the draw. Don't think that Australia will win in Adelaide. I think most likely India will win. And I think that'll get the confidence up. I think if we were going to pick these grounds in the order that would make us feel good, we'd probably have started in Perth and moved to Melbourne. They're our 2 best choices. And maybe we could give them Adelaide and then have Sydney for a decider, but we've gone and given them the best ground at first ground. So, you know, that's what we're doing. That's happened there, so that's fine. That's it. That's Marcus Harris. Good luck to you. Good luck to the Australian selectors on this absolute hunch that very few people would agree with. Hoping it goes well. Not expecting it to. And I really hope that it doesn't go as badly as it did when we picked Cameron Bancroft under similar circumstances. I said at the time that was a bad choice. I'll say at the time, this is a bad choice. I've seen enough cricket to know this is not the circumstances where you pick somebody with that kind of form. The form is not big enough. The circumstances are wrong for this. I'm trying to think, has it ever worked out? No. Not for now. It's got, I mean, a theoretical chance? Not likely. Openers, they're not. That's not where you put a punch in. You know, you put a middle order player, an all-rounder, a wicketkeeper, maybe a bowler. Maybe that'll work. Straight in the test team, opening the batting, first person under that much pressure, and you're putting someone in with an absolute hunch. You're asking for trouble. You're going to have Australia first ball, 1 wicket down. That's what they're going to look at. And the other guy at the other end, Aaron Finch, he's played 2 tests. He's done well, but he's played 2 tests. You're not going to have that emotional support that you'd have if you had a steady, stable person with 30 or 40 or 70 tests behind them. Now, if we had a David Warner there, you could probably put up with having a hunch like this. Even though it's risky, but there's some reason behind it. This is just, I don't even know. I don't know what to say. So that's my thoughts about Marcus Harris. So can we please not play any test? Khawaja can open, put Hanscom in there at 5 or 4. Don't play Harris, please. Please. Let's not go there. And Harris, if you're watching this, hello. Don't hate you at all. Don't know you. Wish you good luck. I hope that I'm wrong if you are picked, which apparently I don't agree. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that you defy the odds. You buck the trend. and you do better than everything says you will. And for Australia, I hope that, well, I hope we get a draw in Adelaide. I hope there's a lot of rain and that we get a draw. If we manage to get a win, wow, I don't know how that's possible, but wow, that would be amazing. But I think all the batsmen for the Adelaide Test, even the number of 10s and 11s, learn to bat defensively from day one. If you're batting on day one, the whole game is going to be aiming at a draw for us. That's a tip for you. That's my tip. That's what we should be aiming at. We can get a draw in Adelaide. We don't want loss because we're going to win 2 tests in this series. We should, unless rain stuffs it up or something amazing happens. We're going to win Perth and Melbourne, and there's 4 tests. We don't want to. If we lose Adelaide and Sydney, it's a 2-all draw. If we draw Adelaide, we can win 2-1. That's that. If there's too much rain in Melbourne, we've lost the series 2-1. So we've stuffed up with this selection. Let's not stuff it up any further. We don't want to have this as our first ever series loss to India in Australia. Been playing against them for 70 years in Australia. 1948 was the first one. I know that these are circumstances where India is all excited. Good on them. I don't want to make this easy for them. Let's not play Marcus Harris. That's making it easy for them. India's not going to thank us. They're going to say it was all them. So let's not give them these presents. Let's not give them Marcus Harris on a plate. The first ball duck, a walking wicket. Let's not give him. Just keep him in the Shield season for a bit longer. Till his average is back up to 40. I think that, under normal circumstances, that should be the minimum. Even with a lot of good bowling and not that many good batsmen in the Australian domestic circuit, at least close to 40. It's 35. It's why are we doing this to ourselves? That's it. Okay. So bye-bye.